In the previous video, I suggested that we could see the narrator of Crónica de Muerte Anunciada as a journalist, carrying out investigations to write his Crónica. However, we can also think of the narrator as a kind of detective, trying to solve a crime, and indeed many scholars have studied Crónica de Muerte Anunciada through the lens of crime fiction or detective fiction, the novela negra as we call it in Spanish. Crónica is not your average crime fiction though, as we know most of the details of the crime from the beginning. By the end of the first chapter, we know the victim, Santiago Nazar, as the very first line of the book is El día en que lo iban a matar, Santiago Nazar se levantó a las 5:30 de la mañana para esperar el buque en que llegaba el obispo. We also know the method, fue destazado como un cerdo, and the culprits, Pedro and Pablo Vicario. We even know the motive, to avenge Angela Vicario's honour, after she's returned her husband on her wedding night for not being a virgin. Nonetheless, many questions remain, for the narrator and for us as readers. Why did no one tell Santiago? To what extent does the whole town bear responsibility? And who is Angela protecting? Why did she name Santiago when it's quite probable, though never confirmed in the book, that he was not the real culprit? As Linda Hutcheon explains, in crime fiction, the logical deductions demanded of the reader place him in the shoes of the detective himself. Because the book leaves so much ambiguous, as readers we have to follow the clues in the testimony from different characters, just as the narrator does, and come to our own conclusions. This makes the book more engaging for readers, while also reflecting the lack of clear answers in real life. We can think of the narrator as a frustrated detective. He tells us, volví a este pueblo olvidado, tratando de recomponer con tantas días dispersas el espejo roto de la memoria. A message he reiterates later, saying he is decidido a rescatar la memoria a pedazos. There is no complete narrative here, only fragments that the narrator and the readers try to piece together. But there are too many pieces missing to create a full picture. The narrator is ultimately unsuccessful. This contrasts with the traditional detective fiction, where the detective solves the case and restores order. Scholars have explained how this traditional format emerged around the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a time of great change and turmoil, including rapid industrialisation and urbanisation, leading to rising crime rates. The detective solving the case would reassure readers that danger was controllable and authorities would protect them. In Crónica de la Muerte Anunciada, by contrast, the law does not provide any answers, nor do the authorities offer protection. In 1973, on the topic of why little detective fiction was written in Latin America, Mexican author Carlos Monsiváis stated, Una policía juzgada corrupta de modo unánime no es susceptible de crédito alguno. In other words, if the police is so corrupt in real life, no one is going to believe or root for the police in fiction. However, René Craig Odders explains that crime fiction has since become increasingly popular and common in Latin America. But it has adapted to the local realities. A key aspect of this is in the depiction of untrustworthy authorities and the use of characters other than the police, including journalists, to investigate crimes. To give just a couple of examples from Crónica, the mayor, Coronel Aponte, is described as frivolous. He is warned that the Vicario brothers will kill Santiago, but brushes it off, stating, No se detiene a nadie por sospechas. When he is later urged again to arrest the brothers, prometió ocuparse de eso al instante, pero entró en el club social a confirmar una cita de dominó para esa noche, y cuando volvió a salir, ya estaba consumida el crimen. His social life takes precedence over saving Santiago's life. It is also on the mayor's orders that the priest carries out a brutal autopsy described in horrific, minute detail, as if Santiago were being murdered a second time. In addition, though a juez instructor is sent to investigate the case, and makes over 500 pages of notes, this report is neglected and left to ruin, rendering it useless for the narrator and for the readers. When the narrator goes to the Palacio de Justicia de Riohacha to find the report, he discovers that the building has been repeatedly flooded, saying, "Yo mismo exploré muchas veces con las aguas hasta los tobillos aquel estanque de causas perdidas." We can read these lost causes as a symbol of the failure of central authorities to maintain order and to protect citizens, as well as the impossibility of ever getting answers to the central questions of the novel. To summarise, while the traditional detective novel is meant to reassure readers and give them a sense of order and justice, Crónica de la Muerte Anunciada does not give us the answers we are looking for. Rather, it tells us that you cannot trust official institutions, one of the ways in which the novel comments on wider Colombian society, though the events of the novel are limited to a small town. As readers, we must put ourselves in the place of the detective and find our own answers to the questions left unresolved. This reader engagement is perhaps one of the reasons why the novel remains so popular over 40 years since its publication.